You're watching the Mending Roots to Cultivate Communities telethon, coming live from the Denver Community Media Studios in downtown Denver.
Hi there, my name is Vic. I'm the president of the Gifford Gun Owners for Safety Colorado chapter and a proud board member of the Mending Roots Forest Project. In 2011, while meeting with her constituents at a grocery store in Tucson, Arizona, Gabby Gifford was shot in the head. 17 others were injured and 6 people died, including Christina Green, who was just 9 years old. Since that tragic day, Gabby has found the courage to learn how to read, write, and walk again. However, her recovery didn't stop there. She ended up launching a national movement to prevent gun violence in America. I'm happy to introduce you to Gabby as she talks about the importance of her fight.
It's time for courage. We must do something. We must stop gun violence. Protect our children, our future, let them lead the way. Make our country a safer place, a better place. Do you have the courage to fight? Please join your voice with mine.
Hello, my name is James Ray Miller. I've just recently been released from prison. I did 26 years for first-degree assault, attempted aggravated robbery, and conspiracy, and I am mending roots to cultivate communities. The year I was arrested was 1994. I was 17 years old. The incident I went to jail for was it was a young man who was killed for his Bronco jacket, they stated. They said a young man and his cousin were coming from someone's house. They said somebody rolled up on them. Basically, they stated 2 gentlemen got out of the car, and one of them walked up to the first one, and they said he stated to him, give him his jacket or whatever. They had a tussle behind it, and no one knows between the other 2 people which one pulled the trigger. Before going to prison, I played sports, football, basketball growing up. Lived with my mother mainly, age 13, 14, I start going down a different road. I have family members who were involved in gangs, and I kind of I looked up to them, but they weren't really into it that deep, but I wasn't from the same gang they were from. I'm basically from a member of the Crips gang, Trey Gangsters. And mainly I think my involvement in that was, looking for more brotherhood and, more family structure, certain things out of that aspect. And I got involved with it because, I started selling drugs. So basically I wanted more, and I didn't really need nothing. My mother made sure I had everything I needed, but, we want more. We want the flashy cars. We want the fresh clothes, all that other stuff. So that was part of me being drawn to that lifestyle. I had fights. I'd been in shootouts, got shot at. Like I said, I lived in the blood neighborhood. So, like I said, every day was a daily struggle for me. Oh, I believe my involvement in the gang had everything to do with my situation. If I wasn't a gang member, me and you probably wouldn't even be talking right now. So basically, it changed my life. Well, my trial was about 2 weeks long. I was petrified because I'm looking at life in prison at 18 years old. The jury took 2 days to come back. So when they read the verdict, they read the murder charge first, found me not guilty. So I'm like, oh, okay. They, next charge, guilty. Next charge, guilty. Next charge, guilty. So I'm stuck, I'm paralyzed. And when I got back to that holding cell, like I broke down, literally. So if I can tell the next man, like, look at what you're doing to your family, what you're doing to you, how you're hurting your mother, your brothers, sisters, whatever the case may be, and what problems are you bringing to your family, to your house. Because my house was shot at numerous times. And I don't have nothing to do with my mother. That's because of me. But, I just like to let the youth know of today, like, I mean, this isn't, it's fun and it's cool when everything is going well, when you're making good money, selling drugs, and, you out there, you got the good car and all the girls and all that. But when that other door closes and you on that other side, can you imagine living in a bathroom? I mean, just imagine that right now. The bathtub is your bed. You got a toilet and a sink. That's how big those rooms are. And you're living in there with another man. Being a member of a gang was my choice. Me ending up in that situation, I can't blame no one but myself because I chose to live that life. With me choosing to live that life, I know what comes with it. Death or jail. I had to live with that decision. I had to live those 26 years in prison for a choice I made as a child. And that's what a lot of youth need to look at. Like, I mean, this isn't a lifestyle you want to live. My message to young people who would be thinking about joining a gang would be, look at me and look at my story. Like I said, I'm a walking billboard. If there's anything you want to see that can go wrong as far as being in a gang, like, you can look at me. The Mending Roots to Cultivate Community Telethon I believe, will help a lot of youth as far as in their community, by us going out with them and allow them to plant trees in the high-risk neighborhoods as far as the Park Hill area, the east side of Denver, Montbello, Westwood area, many other areas where it's high crime in those communities. Anything we can do at this point in time will help. And any youth that are willing to give their time to make a change, you are welcome.
Once again, Mending Roots to Cultivate Community Telethon, right here from the Denver Community Media Studios. And now I'm joined by James Miller. Man, thanks for coming through, brother.
Thanks for having me.
There's so many questions that I have, but I guess first I would like to, what do you feel like what's going through your mind when you're watching yourself speak about your situation?
I'm holding back tears right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm hurting. You know what I mean? I just want to help any way I can, man,
It shows. And the mistakes of youth. We think we're superhuman. One thing that was impressed upon me was how much it must have gotten a hold of you to be in Park Hill and claim Trey. Can you think back to that age, that James? And I understand it was the money and the lure and the lifestyle, but if you could talk to that James, what do you think he would have to say to you, first of all, about his involvement in his actions?
I know he'd tell me we can do better. I had a totally different life plan as far as sports went. I really felt like I could have did something different. And the route we went, that's not the route I know he would want it to go.
Yeah, Norman, who we both know, he speaks to you and there's a glow that comes over him. You got me choked up over here. And he talks about your athletic prowess and how in that era, many people would say that you were the truth and there was a great future waiting for you on someone's athletic field. The sacrifice of that time is obviously as a result of your choices, but you do, I hope, understand it. Nothing is irredeemable. And have you been able to come to peace with all of this happening? And I know that you're doing it in terms of giving your voice and your time here, but have you been able to come to peace with what you lost over the course of time that you were incarcerated?
Not really.
Yeah.
It's gonna take a while. I know I will eventually, but at this moment, no, I haven't. And it's something I need to address with myself because it's eating me up.
Yeah. Not many people can relate. We might know someone who's been through, but very few people can relate to life on the outside, then an entire lifetime, 26 years on the inside, back to life on the outside. How much does freedom mean to you in lieu of that journey that you've taken to this point?
Man, it means everything to me. I just, before I got here, I got off the phone with a friend who's in prison right now for life, So I choose to live my life for him as well, I have to do that.
Yeah. People will always ask the question of someone in your circumstances, what message would you give to young people? It's important that those who have the real experience, it's not a me talking, that have the real experience of having suffered the consequences of their actions and have that, meted out to you by the system. So I hear that question and sometimes I'm like, it just, it doesn't resonate. Like it's hard, because you're a human being that made a mistake, albeit paid for that mistake and came out on the other side. But when we're doing something of this nature and we're talking about violence amongst youth, what do you think some of the most contributing factors are that find young people in the position that you found yourself in?
I think a lot of times it's fatherless households.
Mm-hmm.
Us coming from low income housing, things of that nature. Whereas me, myself, I my father wasn't there, but yet still, I still didn't have to take that route.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's seeing, the cars with the big rims and, them having all the girls and everything else. And that's what lures us to want to live that lifestyle. A lot of us, like I said, I had cousins who were involved in gangs. So some people are bred into it.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
That's, in that era, it's right around the summer of violence. And I'm, K-Tone, myself, we all know that Denver. And that Denver was one that was very unforgiving when it came to the streets. If it wasn't the T that was, hassling us, it was us.
Yeah.
And that, it sticks out to me that you know, your level of involvement that you were able to, you know, because we also have friends who didn't make it out of that era, you know, and I'm not talking about incarcerated, I'm talking about in the ground. So it's a testament to your strength to have survived 26 years in behind bars and come out on the other side. What do you remember of that era and that time, and what do you see now playing out in our communities that sort of mirrors, or maybe do you think things have gotten better? What's your take on where Denver sits now, from the era that caught a hold of you to the one that we're all here for now?
I think now it's probably worse.
Yeah.
You know, because back then you could get a fight, you could get a
Catch a
headshot,
fade,
you
for
know
sure.
what I mean? Now everybody got a gun with a clip long as your leg, and they ain't scared to use it. But the thing is, behind that, at the end of the day, after you pull that trigger, are you ready to go do that time?
That's right.
You know what I mean? It's like, that's the other end of it, and that's not what they're being told.
Right.
You know, so that's the main thing I feel that we need to stress to these kids, you know what I mean? Like, the violence is, right now, man, it's something called for, you know what I mean? We killing ourselves, and nobody is really pushing the issue as far as, you know, telling them, man, it's another way to do it. It's another way to live life, you know? We all we got.
I feel a lot of the time, and Toner, if you got something, feel free to jump in. I feel a lot of the time it's like, generationally speaking, to say we had it harder, maybe that's a little wide. But I feel like we grew up in an era where differences were settled on the bricks, right? You were really in the streets.
Yeah.
I often look at this generation of kids, because of the access to technology, because of the influence can be 24/7.
Yes.
But the experience,
It's not the same.
it's not the same. And I wonder, what is it about that lifestyle now that appeals to these young people? There's so much more opportunity. And obviously it varies from community to community. Some communities are exactly how they've been since the 90s, you know. But, you know, how do you message this to a young person who couldn't really relate to the world you grew up in, but wants to pick up and put on the uniform that you really wore?
To me right now, it's like, I think it's more watered down. Like
Yeah.
you said, it wasn't the same. Like back then, it was really hard. You know, like I said, I grew up in Park Hill, walking around Park Hill as a gang member, as a Crip. You know what I mean? I had to make road maps and, you know, go
For
through
sure.
people's yards to get where I needed to go. You know what I mean? And like now, I think it's more of a hip hop era. You know what I mean? It's not really gang banging. You know what I'm saying? You see somebody on TV, your favorite rapper, you want to be where he's from. You know what I mean? Like this ain't no game. Like this is really a lifestyle people is living. Like don't get me wrong, you know, still to this day, it's people out there that's really still about
sure,
that
10
life.
toes,
You know
for
what I
sure.
mean? So I'm not taking nothing from nobody. You know, I'm not, you know, saying anybody's weak or nothing like that. You know what I mean? But I'm saying now it's not the same.
You know, and we were talking about that earlier, and I'm glad that you brought that up, you know, and, you know, senseless. The word senseless, you know, comes around, and it's always been senseless. You know, whether we're dealing with mental and emotional issues that we just don't know how to access the help for, back, you know, in earlier times or your era, or right now where, you know, you just don't know where to put that energy. What was senseless then, now just seems like people reaching for a lifestyle that
It's really not there.
it's not there. And I had asked Toner about it, and we talked about it earlier, just with Jonathan, just about the part that our culture, and you can say hip hop, and maybe that's a little too blanketed, but the part that our culture ends up playing and shaping real lives that have real consequences for real families.
I think that is better, the culture, than just the hip hop.
Just the hip hop.
You know
For
what
sure.
I mean? I mean, it does play a factor, and like you said, man, I think it's even just hearing them say that more dangerous now. I agree with that. You know, because they're not fighting.
No.
They ain't fighting. I don't know the last time I heard any my sons or nephews or anything say, "Oh, they was fighting." No, they ain't fighting. You know, so it's a big issue. It's a big issue that we have, man.
Conflict resolution skills are, you know, I think people like to think about, oh, in the best case scenario, would be sitting down and having a conversation with the person that you have an issue with. Sure. Also, you know, I do think that there's a place for physicality as long as it, because sometimes you got to exercise, you got to get them wiggles out.
Right.
And I look at this generation, and I just wonder, James, if that reach and that allure is something that we can dent, you know, because they don't want to hear it from me, you know, like you alluded to, they're looking toward their favorite rapper or you know, whatever it is that they're picking up on social media, whatever, and it's far more influential. It's more treacherous times because it's so, you know, it's always been senseless. I won't say that it never has been senseless, but now it just seems so much more random. I applaud you. I got to tell you, it's rare is the occasion that you can meet and see contrition, humility. If you were to be able to speak to the people whose lives your actions affected, what is it that you would want to say?
I believe still to this day that, you know, a lot of people blame me for that murder, and like I said, I wasn't the one that did it.
For sure.
You know, so even me telling them I'm sorry, I don't know if they'll accept my apology for just being associated with it, you know, and I like to tell them I'm sorry just for that, you know, that my name is associated with it.
Off top.
You know, I know that family is still hurting. You know, my family is still hurting. You know, they went through it just like I did. They did time with me. So, you know, to that family, like I said again, I would like to say I'm sorry just for being associated with that. And, you know, if there ever is a moment where we can sit down and speak, and, you know, I would like that.
Man, James Miller, you are a man. You are a man amongst the boys in some regard. And I applaud you.
Thank
for
you.
real.
Thank you.
Mending Roots to Cultivate Communities Telethon is really about, you know, moments like these, and for us to be able to stitch our community back together in the best way possible. And your voice matters. Your voice matters.
Thank you.
And we're appreciative. And I do believe we've hit 30% of our goal.
Oh, yeah.
So 30 bands in. We're 30% into what I set as a goal of $50,000.
That's dope.
That's not bad. Wait, 30%? Is my math off?
Yeah, your math is off.
My math is way off. You know, DPS.
50. We're about 15.
We're about, okay, 15 bands.
15,
didn't say $30,000.
Yeah.
30% of our 15 bands. That's
Yeah.
There's more to go.
Definitely.
And there's more to come. We really appreciate you guys spending your time with us. James Miller, thank you for coming through. DJ K-Tone on the ones and twos. We'll step away and then we'll come back with more of the Mending Roots to Cultivate Community Telethon right here live from Denver Community Media Studio.
Peace, I'm Big Samir.
And I'm Asia Black, and we are The Reminders. In honor of National Youth Violence Prevention Week,
We're mending roots to cultivate communities.
please enjoy this performance of our song,
Coming home.
Much Love to Everybody.
Peace.
Yeah, yeah. 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 I came from the land of the mountains where rivers run and flowers smile. Mother Moon kissed me every night. Now I'm living in a land of luxury where stars leave the sky to walk the streets, and I wonder why my heart is steep in shadow. Oh, I know a lonely, deep and cold. It makes me want to go. Oh, I know a lonely, deep and cold. It makes me want to go. I just wanna go, so I beat my drum till morning comes. Then again until I set the sun. I send my sacred song as a message on the wind to tell my kin I'm coming home. Home. I'm coming home. Cracks in my heart, crown on my head. Watch the palm if I'm as good as dead. If I got no one close enough to see. I can't see past the end of my reach. The ones I love that I can't touch. Too far away to hear them pray for me. Oh, I know a lonely, deep and cold. It makes me want to go. Oh, I know a lonely, deep and cold. It makes me wanna go.
I want to. I've been gone so long, finally on my way. Countdown, warm welcome, celebration day. I carry wisdom in my scars and bitter marks of what I've been through. A blackbird rebirth, flying back to you. Salt of the earth, I was caught up in the whirlwind. Wrestling for heaven, trying not to let the world win. Miraculous escape, great shape, divine mercy. Purify my soul, stay faithful on the journey.
So I beat my drum till morning comes.
Then again until I set the sun. I send my sacred song as a message on the wind
To tell my kid
I'm coming
home.
I'm coming home.
I'm coming home.
I'm coming home.
I'm coming home.
It's where we are now.
I'm coming home.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm coming home.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
coming home. And I have been away for so long.
I have been so brave, I've been so strong.
I've been all around the world in the time that I've been gone.
Now I finally come back to the place where I belong.
Donate now, donate often. It's the Mending Roots. Forest.com/donate is where you can. Apparently, if I'm not mistaken, Amazon has contributed $2,500 to our cause. So let's give it up for Amazon for sure. And now we will go to the phone lines and speak with Aaron Johnson, whose son, thank God, survived a brush with youth violence. Aaron, thank you for joining us on the telethon.
Oh, of course, it's no problem. Absolutely.
I'm
It's a
sorry.
great thing that we're doing today.
You know what? I couldn't agree any more with you. Give me your son's name. I apologize.
His name is Julian Johnson.
And how is Julian doing?
Julian's doing great, actually. He's actually doing great. It's a blessing.
For you to have a child come this close to youth gun violence and come out on the other side, talk for a second about what that experience has been like for you.
I mean, it was absolutely devastating, life-changing. I never, of course, would have imagined. I grew up here. My family moved here from Detroit, leaving such things. So this was a better place here in Colorado to kind of raise a family. And I was a single mom, and raising a son on my own was something that was, already a challenge. But it was, again, like I said, absolutely devastating, life-changing for me and my family. I often describe it as the best, worst day of my life.
Oh, my God. If you can, in whatever detail you feel most comfortable with, describe the circumstances under which Julian found himself in this situation.
Yeah, I can absolutely do that. I kept my son in sports. He's really tall, just like me, so he played basketball, football, anything to keep him busy and out of such things anyways. So he was on his way. We were supposed to go to a basketball game that afternoon, and when I got home, he wasn't there, and him missing a basketball game is, that's definitely not something he would do, so I kind of immediately got worried. And he was with a friend getting on the bus and got into an altercation with another young man, and they briefly fought, and then from there he pulled out a weapon and shot both him and another young man. Julian was hit in the lower back as he was running, and the bullet was a .22. It hit him in the back, and it hit just about every major organ in his body. So it hit his kidney, large intestines, perforated the stomach, hit his lung, and went through a portion of his heart and came out the top of his chest. He was at a gas station, and a gentleman had pulled up to fill up his car. Seeing that he was shot, Julian was still running, fell by him, and this man was a retired military medic.
Oh, wow.
And he went directly to his trunk and started working on Julian. Paramedics arrived rather quickly and took him directly to Denver Health, where a team worked on him for hours. All of this is at a time that I had no idea what happened.
Man.
I was looking for him everywhere, but I just knew something was wrong. When I finally found him, I begged the police officer to tell me, just tell me if my son's alive. And they said he is alive, but he is in intensive care. So we got to Denver Health, and he was already out of surgeries with a very high temperature, fighting sepsis. At that point, every coach, family friend, my family, we all just gathered there. He spent 30 days in intensive care and 15 days in the hospital. And from there, he walked out of the hospital on his own.
Thank God. You
Yeah.
know, and, you know, to hear that story and to hear the emotion in your voice, it's obvious this is your child. Just, you know, the remembrance of a brush with death is enough to, you know, obviously bring up a lot of emotions. When you think about where we're at now and how close your family came to almost losing your son, what message do you have for the community around you when it comes to, you know, we're in the middle of National Youth Violence Prevention Week, and we're on the eve of the Columbine shooting, and, you know, this unwillingness of young people, or people, I should say, to solve their differences in ways other than pulling the gun. Where do you, what message would you have, if any, to give?
Well, I tell my son and the other young men around him that, you know, nothing's promised, and life is really just that precious. So being able to walk away from something that does not serve you is always going to be the best thing to serve you. So I just tell all young gentlemen that I come across that putting yourself in someone else's shoes often helps to understand, you know, different situations. So with those things, just keeping in mind that, you know, again, life is short, and with the things that are going on, there's another calling that they have, and banding together is something that I feel like and tell them always that is way more important and way more useful of your voice and your strength than against each other.
That's a very profound message. Just to be able to walk away is sometimes far more manly than I think what people think a confrontation gets you. Aaron, to you and your family, and to Jolien, our best collectively. Thank you for sharing your story.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I just want to say thank you so much for letting me share my story. Tomorrow is Julian's 21st birthday.
Tight. Happy birthday to Jolien.
Yeah, I was more than willing to tell it, because it's a full circle blessing, and we're here.
For sure, and ain't going anywhere anytime soon. Thank you so much.
Not at all, not at all. You have a good one. Thank you so much.
You too. If you'd like to share your story, you can call in 720-337-4201. And, you know, we are open to hearing from all of you who have been affected by the scourge of youth gun violence. And also remember to donate. MendingRootsForest.com/donate. MendingRootsForest.com/donate. Amazon's in here, 2,500. Let me see who else is gonna match that. All right, now we go from that to the power of one. I am joined in studio right now by Dane Washington Jr.
Yes,
What's
sir.
going on, brother?
What's going on?
How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well myself.
Good.
You know, I was telling you in the break that, you know, I love to see young brothers taking their time and dedicating it to causes like this. You are affiliated with Park Hill Strong. You champion Park Hill Talks and Montbello Talks. My question is, why? What brought you to this point where community activism and being involved in your community took such a prominent space in your life?
Well, I grew up in Park Hill and played football in Park Hill as a young kid all my life. I was just in the neighborhood, and after I graduated high school, you know, I played football a little bit and went to college and played some college football, but doing the work so my dad actually owns a nonprofit called Kids Above Everything.
Okay.
I'm doing youth mentorship in the same community in Park Hill. So when I stopped playing football, I went back to work with him, and being back in the community and seeing how much the community that I grew up in has changed, and seeing the kids that are in the community. I work in schools, so I work at Stedman Elementary School, and being around those kids and seeing how affected they are through the education system, seeing, you know, how far a lot of these kids are behind, and then seeing how that translates to what we're seeing in the community of, you know, gun violence, gang violence, that type of stuff. It automatically forced me to be involved and say, like, what more can we be doing as a community to help our community and help where I grew up at, where my whole family's been from, you know what I mean? So it automatically, you know, it hit so much more home and made me really want to get involved just because of that.
Our last guest that we had in, James Miller, we had a part of the conversation centered around the difference generationally between Denver of K-Tone and mine and James's era and the Denver that you are growing up in, or that you've grown up in. And I told you when you sat down, you know, I do believe the children are the future, but there's something to that, right? Because the future always seems like something far off in the distance. We got issues right now. And we have people from my generation that, what would you tell someone from my generation? How best do we communicate with you all about what it is that you're going through?
I think the number one thing that adults can do is really just listen and hear us out. And I say listen, and I tell people to listen to us all the time, but when I say listen, I want it to be very clear to listen, not to respond and to react to what we're telling you, but listen to really understand what we're saying and try to gain a better understanding of why we're saying it and what is like causing us to feel these things. But really just taking that into consideration, that we are, you know, we are human as well. And I think it's been one of those things, and I hear it a lot when I talk to other youth about how mental health and things like that aren't necessarily taken as serious by adults when it comes to their kids as it needs to be, especially in Black and brown communities, you know what I mean? And it's not necessarily something that I experienced in my household, but I hear a lot of people come with stories, and, you know, I heard it to an extent, like, right. Oh, just man up, you know what I mean? Like, that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, when we really were going through things, we were told, you know, like, just man up, you know, you're tough, that type of thing. But it kind of got swept under the rug for the most part. So now when we're like adults and we can articulate our feelings a little different and really understand the things that we're going through, and we see these like things that we see nationwide every day, you know, like, it really affects us. And I think adults need to just really hear us out and be like, you know, this kid really is something to say that could really benefit more people than just himself or just me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the stigma, as you're speaking, I'm listening, the stigma of being weak. When I hear man up, it's like, oh, okay. If you're not able to, you know, internalize whatever it is that you're dealing with and deal with it, you know, like a man, or, you know, for a young lady here, you know, non-binary, whatever. Man up, we all understand what it means. The right. Stigma of strength versus weakness when it comes to mental and emotional stress is something that's plagued our community for a long time. Absolutely. When you're speaking with your peers, is it an open a conversation as it seems like you're saying, or is it something that you have to pull on a little harder in order to get people to start expressing themselves?
It's actually a lot easier than I even thought it would be, more with younger generations. And I think that comes with a lot of the people that I work with, and really creating that space where people feel comfortable. I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, how can you get people to trust you enough to be comfortable? And we need more spaces like that in our communities where people just really feel safe to speak to somebody with open heart, you know what I mean, and just really be open to say whatever. But I don't think there's enough spaces created like that. So there's a lot of people who hold back. But the work that I do, in order to really get down to the bottom of why a lot of things are happening, you have to really create those spaces where people can just be open and free to say whatever without any judgment. And that's how you really get down to the root of a lot of those problems.
So in creating those spaces, explain to me what your process and path to has been up until this point, and where can people go when it's a Power of One or a Park Hill Strong affair? Like where do they find that space?
I mean, I think the first thing is really, I think it doesn't even feel like a process to creating that space. It's very natural. I feel like it's just something that when people interact with you and you create that energy and that vibe to say like, I'm very open to what you're saying, and it kind of becomes a mutual agreement amongst everybody in the room. But you kind of have to, I don't know, I think some meetings are a little bit easier than others, or some situations are easier to talk about than others. But once you really start to build that, and you talk to the same people about the same situations, and then that space starts to clear up, when you invite other people into those same spaces, they automatically feel that presence of like, we're here to really lean on one another, and it's really a clear space. But I mean, being involved in the community, you create those spaces all over the place, wherever you really go. And doing the work that I do, I build that wherever, like in the school. I try to be open with kids, you know, and I work with elementary school kids, so if I can create a space like that at a school with kids, then I try to carry that into meetings with adults or just youth overall. And I don't know, it just, it kind of feels, it really feels natural, to be honest, and I think it's something you just work on and how you connect with people.
Bridging the gap generationally. Kind of come full circle our conversation, because you working with elementary school kids, you kind of sit in the middle between the old heads, that's what they call us, right? Between the
I
old
wouldn't
heads.
call you that. We all youthful, man.
Well, you know what the thing is for me, and that's what I wanted to ask you before we closed out, is that, you know, that respect for elders seems so stodgy, stuffy, but it's, you know, there's much to be given from James, for instance. People who have lived and experienced the things that plague now this y'all's world to lead. And I think inserting our voices in y'all's conversation while still giving you your stage is something that we're all going to have to sort of massage. And
absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, I don't know if you were done asking your question.
No, it's cool. It's
no,
cool.
I was just agreeing with you, because I've been doing the work for not as long as I would really even, feels like way longer, but just in the small time that I've been doing the work, about a year and a half, 2 years, and getting involved with so many more adults and leaders, it's funny that you say that, because it's a process for everybody to really get comfortable and be able to like work with each other. You know, there's a lot of times things don't, you know, iron out as easy as you want them to,
right?
And there's going to be disagreements, but that's really the beautiful thing about it, because then when everybody really puts the work in together and things really do work out, then everybody's like, that's what needed to be done from the beginning. That's what needed to be done from the very beginning.
This is what I'm talking about right here. Well said, well stated. Dane, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Space.
Thank you for the work that you're doing in the community, and much continued success.
I appreciate it.
So.
Thank you.
Donate now. Donate now. I'm going to say it. I'm going to keep saying it. Donate now. You can go to mendingrootsforest.com/donate and contribute. Put your money where your mouth is. We know you got your stimmy.
Stimmy's is
me
in,
and Dane say gimme. We can have some fun. We can have some fun with it, Kim.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
All right, so we'll step away for a couple messages, and then we'll be back with more of the Mending Roots to Cultivate Communities Telethon right here on Denver Community Media Studio, and if you're watching on Facebook as well.
My name is Dayton Washington Jr. I'm the Youth Engagement Coordinator for the Power of One and the Youth Co-Chair for the Youth Advisory Council of Denver, and I work very close with Park Hill Strong, the Community Board of Park Hill, and I'm mending roots to cultivate communities.
Na 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 na.
drama, but I had to do it. Equality is still missing like an absent student. The black movement, we're tired of getting these to our necks. Fed up with the walls and tired of putting our backs to it. So I'ma be the voice for my kids. Since they can't do it, I'ma make the choice for my kids and tell them this is deeper than rap. I ain't no preacher, just a speaker with facts. We black gold, we just live from the cracks. Unarmed, I should leave unharmed. If not, then my hive gon' swarm. How many wives gon' mourn? How much longer we survive in this storm? Tired of marching and protesting and writing these songs. But the whole mood is different now. We're standing up, we're sitting down. We talk about them issues, is you getting in or getting out? Yeah, see, we just tired of being patient. We just need love and ventilation.
I tried to be silent, hard to be non-violent. I swear to God, I tried it. I tried to speak and I fight it, 'cause I can't breathe. No, I can't breathe. I said I can't breathe. No, I can't breathe. I said
we've been out here running and what's feeling like it's hell's race. I ain't never seen a cop car and said I felt safe. And I know I ain't alone. They tell us that they serve and protect, then put a knee against the curb on our necks. You act like you don't see a man bleed and say that he can't breathe. Them unheard voices gon' turn to a stampede. I've seen people screaming about the looting and riots, but when the cops come and shoot us, be quiet. And so we need to hear their names in the streets for justice and lack of. And all them cops need to be tried by a black judge and a black jury. 'Cause them badges come with entitlement, killing us in the street and then getting less time than Michael Vick. We got to prevail. At times being black in America's like being a cop that's locked in a jail with the people that he arrested. You won't understand. And if you don't know where you stand, then we know where you stand.
I tried to be silent, hard to be non-violent. I swear to God, I tried it. I tried to speak and I fight it, 'cause I can't breathe. No, I can't breathe. I said I can't breathe. No, I can't breathe. No, I
guess you wonder where I've been. I searched to find the love within. I came back to let you know, got a thing for you, and I can't let go. My friends wonder what is wrong with me. Well, I'm in a daze from your love, you see. I came back to let you know, got a thing for you, and I can't let go. Some people go around the world for love, but they may never find what they dream of. What you won't do to do for love. You tried everything, but you don't give up. In my world, only you make me do for love what I would not do. My friends wonder what is wrong with me. Well, I'm in the daze from your love, you see. I came back to let you know, got a thing for you, and I can't let go. Although I only want the best, it's true. I can't believe the things I do for you. What you won't do for love. You've tried everything, but you won't give up.